We have to start with the very serious, heavy-hearted news that has just taken over the country. The terror is over, but the healing has only just begun. Late last night, police in Moncton arrested 24-year-old Justin Bork, the man thought to be responsible for the deadly RCMP shooting. Hours ago, Canada learned the identity of our three fallen officers: 32-year-old Constable David Ross, 45-year-old Constable Fabrice Georges Gévaudan, and 40-year-old Constable Douglas James Larche. A tragic loss for our country, leaving us heartbroken and asking, where do we go from here?
I think the poignant statement was, now we can go home. It was the RCMP official there saying that, and it's a dark day for Canada. It is one of those stories that in this business, as a journalist, we will say, where were you when? Just like we did back in Mayerthorpe back in 2005 when 4 RCMP officers were killed. It is time to move on. And Mr. Dean Cain, your thoughts as an American who, I should say, supports the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms.
Well, there was also yesterday a horrific shooting in Seattle.
Mm-hmm. It comes down to this for me. Crazy is crazy, you know, and if you are mentally ill, you're going to find a way. I don't blame the guns. Now, I'm not a Canadian, so I'm not going to certainly speak to Canadian politics or Canadian gun control. But I'll tell you, in America, there's over 310 million firearms, and we're not going to get rid of those. It's part of what our country was built upon. The problem is mental illness, and it's hard to monitor that, but there are signs left and right and center. Now, as a father, if my son was having some issues like that, I would be aware. If there were friends of mine who were doing that on Facebook or other places, I would be aware of it. And you start to see the signs. I don't know what the answer is.
Well, let me give you the example of Elliot Roger, who, sure, 2 weeks ago, and his parents tried to turn him in. And he was able, because of his ability to con, I guess, to convince the cops he was stable. So that kind of kills the theory that, even if you try, the authorities won't take it seriously.
It doesn't kill. To me, it doesn't kill the theory. It just says, in that case, they missed. They got so close. They got so close, and that's better than having no idea whatsoever. Having it come out of the blue, which it seems to have done with this young man. I mean, they didn't expect something like that to happen. Obviously, he was a gun enthusiast and a hunter, and I'd seen some photos of him. But the signs are there, and he seemed unstable. Certainly, Elliot Roger was unstable. You just hope that you can catch that sort of thing. Listen, he did half the things with a knife, other things with a car.
Let me ask you this, and I don't have the exact statistic, but the homicide by gun rate in the United States is probably 10 times, if not more, higher than any other industrialized country in the world. So why do you think that is?
It's interesting statistic, but I think it's probably misleading at the same time. Homicide by gun, that includes suicide, that includes every other form of using a gun, whether it's an accident or whatever it happens to be. Statistics will tell you anything they want to tell you, and people who are in politics can manipulate them to say anything they want to. Do I think gun violence is a problem? Absolutely. Do I think more gun control is the issue? No. Look at the gun-free zones where all these problems take place in the States. They're gun-free zones. I worry about my son when he goes to school, because I know it's a gun-free zone. And I know that if somebody came in there with a firearm, there's nobody there to stop them. And I would love to have a concealed carry permit, because I'd like to be the person who would stop someone in that situation.
Dean, I don't want to put you on the spot anymore, but I'm wondering about how you store, I'm assuming you have a gun, how you store the gun at home, because I'm concerned for kids at home where there are firearms.
Absolutely. And that is one of the big problems that happened in the Sandy Hook shooting. The firearms weren't stored correctly. Mine are all chamber locked, in a safe, ammunition's in another spot. There's no way you could do that. You couldn't get those firearms unless I opened them up and did that. It's very touchy, and there are a lot of people who don't like to discuss it, but I'll happily discuss it because I have strong feelings on it.
Or at least we have free speech, and that's something we'll never give up.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.